Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly with you, broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Hope everyone having a great start to their Wednesday. Cory Curtis from News 2 going to join us. We are getting him settled. He is joining us remotely today. Excited to have Cory on and hoping to avoid any screaming matches today, but it's definitely possible because we are going to dive into college football playoff expansion, as Tony Pettiti had some very interesting comments last night about the 2014 playoff, basically saying that they have not even discussed a 16-team playoff. So excited for that. We'll talk some Titans. We'll talk some Super Bowl. Lots to get into today with Cory, and we will be joined shortly by Cory Curtis from News 2. Again, it was another great NBA game last night. We've been treated well to start off this week with the conference finals in the NBA, and of course, Game 7 with Buffalo and Montreal back on Monday night. Last night, the Knicks coming back from down 22 in the final 8 minutes to send it to overtime and eventually take Game 1. I'm sticking by what I've said all week, which is the winner of the West is going to win the NBA, whether it's Spurs, whether it's the Thunder. But I do think this could be a really fun series between the Knicks and the Cavaliers. And man, this game looked over about midway through the fourth quarter. The Knicks figured it out. Jalen Brunson had 38 points or something like that, and ended up pulling it off to help the Knicks get out to a 1-0 lead in the East Finals. Any update on Cory?
Yep, trying to get him admitted into the
Okay,
Zoom.
cool.
Got logged out. That's what happened.
Awesome. We're working through some technical difficulties to get Cory Curtis with us. He will be with us for the full show. And yeah, Cory's texting me saying he's not hearing anything. So we will get him in here as soon as we can. Again, the Super Bowl officially announced yesterday that it will be coming to Nashville in 2030. Super Bowl 64, going to be a celebration on Broadway tonight to commemorate the announcement that Nashville is going to get the Super Bowl. Still 3.5 years away, long way to go, but very exciting to see Nashville get the Super Bowl for the first time in history, and the hope is that they will be added to the regular rotation. Nashville, obviously, it's been growing as a major event city, and you hope that the Super Bowl is not the only major event that they're going to get, that you're going to see the Final Four, the College Football Playoff National Championship, all come to the Music City with the new stadium in the next couple of years. And the Super Bowl obviously is the biggest of all of those. And if the Titans and Nashville do a nice job with it, then they'll be able to get it, hopefully not just once in the 2030 decade, but maybe twice, and end up being in that regular handful rotation. And it's exciting stuff here in the Music City to see the Super Bowl coming here, and we're going to get Cory's thoughts on that coming up as soon as we're able to get him settled.
Working on it back here.
Parker, did you get to watch that Knicks Cavs game at all last night?
I did. A 44-11 run for the Knicks.
Ridiculous.
That's crazy.
And you got the Mike Breen quarter bang at the end there. Sam Merrill letting it go at the very end, and you heard Mike Breen. He started to let go of that signature call. Hey, it rims out. It was so close to being a buzzer beater there for Sam Merrill to somehow escape and get the win. But the Knicks able to get it done in overtime and pull away. Knicks take the 1-0 lead. Game 2 in Madison Square Garden coming up on Thursday night. We will get Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals in the NHL tonight. Avalanche and the Golden Knights tomorrow. Canadiens and the Hurricanes. I'm fired up for these Stanley Cup playoffs down the stretch here in the conference finals and into the NBA finals. The Stanley Cup finals. I think there's going to be a lot of great hockey down the stretch here. And we'll get into that later on in the show with Cory as well. Again, we're going to talk expansion here, not about the group of 5, but we're going to talk about just the 12 versus 16 versus 24. Tony Pettiti, I heard Joe Rexroad did his late Rex rant at the very end, and we're going to get into that discussion as well. I think we finally have Cory. Cory Curtis, can you hear us?
I can finally hear you. Yeah.
There we
I don't know
go.
what was going on.
Yeah,
I usually feel pretty incompetent, but I was checking my headphones. I'm like, I got audio. I just don't hear the station.
I think that was on our end. We were trying to get you onto the Zoom computer, and we finally were able to do it. So, Cory, glad to have you on. We've got lots to get to today. I'll apologize, Cory, about some of the flack you've taken for your Michael Jackson Prince take this past week. I will say,
you know what? It's all right.
It was a texter who brought it up with TD, and that led to a long conversation about music. And I believe I was asked to ask you, who are the two artists I was supposed to ask Cory if he likes? I think Jimi Hendrix was one of them.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Jimi Hendrix. I forget the other one. Are you a Jimi Hendrix fan, Cory?
Look, I only know one song that he plays, so
okay.
I can't really comment. So like I said, I'm not a music person,
right?
So like being offended about my view is like asking my grandmother her view on the status of the NFL and which team she likes and which she doesn't. I mean, I just some stuff resonates with me and some stuff doesn't. But I'm not sitting here saying, oh, they're terrible. I don't know why anybody likes them. And I'm sorry that people want me to worship at the altar of everyone, and I don't.
I understand your mindset on it. I'm a fan of Michael Jackson and Prince, but I think people have jumped on that one this week. I will say I'm not a huge music person either. Like I'm more of I'll talk to you about movies and stuff like that more than I am I am music. But anyway, we'll avoid that today and get into the Super Bowl, Cory. Super Bowl coming to Nashville in 2030. Super Bowl 64 going to be at the new Nissan Stadium. What were your thoughts on this? And, the impact for the city, getting the world, or at least the country's biggest sporting event to come here to the Music City.
When did that happen? Did I miss that?
You must have missed it. If you go look at any Nashville Go. Yeah, you have a fork in the tunnel. One goes to Broadway, one goes to the East
Yeah.
Bank. I love it.
I'm all about it.
Robert on the text line says, haven't they been back? The Super Bowl will be a one and done also. Well, I would argue that Nashville made the draft a very sought after event, and every other city is now bidding to get the draft. So we've seen Detroit, we've seen Cleveland, we've seen Pittsburgh, we've seen blanking on some of the other ones, but Green Bay got it a couple years ago. Minneapolis just got it for next year, and then I believe Cincinnati is going to get it in 2029. So and DC is getting it too. So it's made it a sought after event for every NFL city. Makes it hard for them to go back to Nashville when all of these other cities want to host it for the first time.
Yeah. Look, they want to take that thing everywhere because it's a different event than the Super Bowl is. And I think they feel like they can take that to every team. And I think because I was with you, I thought we would get the draft again, in short order, but the NFL has made it pretty clear it's going to be mobile and it's going to go everywhere until other teams who haven't gotten it have all gotten their fill.
Yes, and it makes it easier, of course, that you can go to Minneapolis and have an outdoor draft because it's late April and you don't have to worry about snow on the ground and all that stuff. So every city is eligible. Every city has an opportunity to host the draft. But I would say the draft will be back in Nashville at some point, but clearly the city was focused on getting a Super Bowl first, and then maybe we'll see a few years down the road if they bring the draft back.
Yeah. Look, if you want to be skeptical, that's absolutely, you're right. I think, the only thing that would hold that, I think, because they'll do it right. There's no doubt in my mind they'll do it right. And I think the only thing that will hold them back from possibly getting it multiple times is seating capacity. That would be the only thing.
No, that is a good point. And the Burke Nihill and the Titans have said that they can add extra risers, and with the standing room only capacity, it's not going to be an issue. But you are right that this stadium is it the lowest seating capacity in the NFL when it's built? It's in that realm, I think.
I think Arizona will be up there too.
I think as a whole, stadiums are getting smaller. And because I think they're all making it more about experience.
The luxury suites too are more important than how many seats can you fit in the stadium.
Yeah, not asking people to talk to God and watch the game at the same time because they're so high in the air. And so I think you look at when they build the new stadium in Washington, it's going to be much smaller than FedEx Stadium, much smaller. And so and you're right, the stadium will hold about 60,000. I think they'll have the capacity to add probably at its max 5,000 to 7,000 more seats, or standing room tickets, something like that. We'll see what they can manage. I think the first time that they start selling those standing room seats, when there's a demand for it, they'll probably start at like 500 or 1,000. They're certainly not going to dive in and go, "Oh, we're going to add some seats right off the bat." They want to do things right, but there's a lot of concourse area. There's a lot of standing area, and so there's a lot of room for expansion. If you've ever been to Dallas, they added a ton of seats when they had the Super Bowl,
right?
And they've got a ton of concourse space on the end zones and stuff, and you can see where that space was. And Nashville won't be quite like that, but it'll be along those lines.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. If you want to text or call, our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Let's transition over to college football after this. Tony Pettiti at Big Ten meetings yesterday had a comment about the 2014 playoff and about the 16-team possibility, where they might go. We will talk about it next because it seems like it's the SEC having to stand up against everybody else at this point to avoid a 24-team playoff in 2026. 615-737-1025. Jake Lyman, Cory Curtis, Parker Kelly, next man up, 1025 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Cory Curtis, and Parker Kelly with you on your Wednesday morning. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel at 102.5 The Game for live shows and exclusive content. Let's get into college football playoff expansion again. And, we're not going to talk about the group of five today. At least I'm not planning on it. We're gonna keep this just based on how many teams are going to be in the college football playoff. And
for the record, Cory and I are in full agreement today.
Okay,
we've been talking a little
good.
during the commercial.
So I saw the comments from Tony Pettiti last night, and we knew the Big Ten was going to be on the side of the 24-team playoff. It makes sense for them, especially with their TV deals, and I believe Fox would be a big winner if this went to a 24-team playoff. But he also said that they have not even had a conversation about 16 teams. 16 feels like such a common sense number, and they said that they won't even discuss it. So it does not seem like 16 is going to be on the table for 2026. Basically what Tony Pettiti said, it's going to be 24 or we will stay at 12. And I do not understand why, after 2 years of 12-team playoffs, why do we need to double it again? It makes no sense to me.
Yeah, and look, that says to me it's going to stay at 12 because ESPN has said they have no taste, no hunger for a 24-team playoff. They want it at 16 or less. And so, if they don't have ESPN on board, not that you can't sell those games to somebody else if ESPN doesn't want them, but I just think that there's probably enough pushback on this where it's not going to happen. But we'll see, like you said, because I don't think anybody views it as, teams outside of, 12 or 16 having a real chance to win the thing. But who knows? But it doesn't have to expand. You're right. You've got a pretty good setup the way you've got it. I know other people want to be included, like other conferences want, more than one team possibly, but if your teams are good enough, you'll get more than one. I mean, we saw, what was it? The Big 12, who got in 2 years ago along with SMU?
Oh, it was
TCU.
No. Who got in that year out of the Big 12?
Wasn't that the year TCU played?
No, that was the 14 playoff. TCU.
Wait, okay. What year was this?
2 years ago, the 12-team playoff. Who was the Big 12 rep?
Arizona.
It was Arizona State.
Yeah,
Arizona State. That's right. Yeah, so they got two.
They got the first
Arizona
round
State.
bye. Almost beat Texas.
They got SMU. Yes, they did. Yeah, Cam Scattaboo. And so you can get multiple teams. You just got to be good enough.
Well, SMU is an ACC team, but that does.
I'm sorry.
Yes. But yes, the ACC got two that year with Clemson.
Yes. Okay, but my point remains.
Your point stands. Yes. No, I understand what you're saying. Yeah, and the Big 12 and the ACC, of course, are going to hold that up because even last year in a 12-team playoff, the ACC, just by the skin of their teeth, and yes, Miami went to the national championship game, but Miami was the last team in. There was no guarantee the ACC was going to get a single team in a 12-team playoff. So it makes sense that those two conferences want to go to 24. The Big Ten basically saying they won't do 16, which 16 is a common sense number, right? There's no buys. You play 1 through 16, you play 4 rounds, and you crown a champion. And he said basically that 16 does not make financial sense because you'd have to get rid of the conference championship games. And I think we're all on the same page, right? That,
get rid of them.
Yeah. Who needs the conference championship games? But my question to that is, you aren't adding another round if you go to 16. You're just getting rid of the buys. It's still the same amount of games. You play the same schedule. Why does a 16-team bracket necessitate getting rid of the conference championship games? I'm fine getting rid of the conference championship games, but I don't get why 16 is off the table when you're not adding another round to the playoffs.
How is it not financially viable? You're adding 4 playoff games.
He says that getting rid of the conference championships would cost $200 million.
Well, but you're adding 4 playoff games.
Right.
So you're adding as many games as you're removing, 4 and 4. So, and I think as the playoff goes on, those, if they decide to keep those conference championship games, they will be looked at more as of a burden than anything else, because most of the teams playing in those games will already have their spot in the playoffs. Like Alabama last year, it didn't matter that it was their third loss; they still got in.
Yep. Yeah, and I guess the one thing that I could say of why they would have to get rid of the conference championship games is now the SEC championship and the Big Ten championship wouldn't be for a bye, right? Like Indiana last year knew, all right, we win, we're going to get a bye. We won't have to play in the first round. Same thing with Georgia on the other side in the SEC championship. But now if you're playing in that extra game, it's like, all right, we're playing a 13th game for basically no reason. We're going to still get a home game in the first round. What's the point of playing this game? But I think 16 is a natural stepping stone if you're eventually going to go to 24. But I'm fine with it. If Pettiti says they'll stick with 12, then sure, stick with 12. I don't get why we feel this rush to move on from a 12-team system that, in my opinion, has been fine for the first 2 years, although they had to work out the seeding kinks after the first season.
Yeah, and look, whenever you try something new, there's always going to be kinks, to be worked out. And whenever you're picking teams based on resume and not on actually winning their way in, you're always going to have people. There's always room for debate. You can't debate the NBA playoffs or the NFL playoffs because it's where you finish. But in college sports, that's not the way it is. You can win your way there, but then you have to pass the beauty contest and get invited. And so that's what creates that. And I don't think there's enough teams that are in contention for the beauty contest to go for 24. But again, they're going to do what they eventually want to do. And part of the reason for getting rid of the conference championship games is you can get the playoffs started sooner so that you actually finish them in a reasonable amount of time. And, it's another game that other teams in the playoffs don't have to play, don't have to be exposed to, don't have to face injuries. And again, how much money do they need? I mean, really, they say it's going to cost them $200 million. And I brought up the 4 games they're going to get back. Even if they only made $140 million from those games, you're going to be okay. Trust me.
I know. And it has to be financially viable for these conferences. That's the job of the commissioners, is you're trying to make the most money for your member schools. But I also think you don't want to bite the hand that feeds you and ruin the product. Like last year, 24 teams would have had Houston in. You would have had Arizona in. I get it. You want more teams feeling like they have a chance, but they used the argument last night of, well, if you had a 24-team playoff since 2014, 80 different teams would have participated in the playoffs. And I'm like, is that what you want, though? This isn't
you
the
want
NFL.
the playoffs to be special.
It's supposed to be difficult to get into the playoffs. And when you basically have everybody in the top 25 participating in the playoffs, it's like it makes that it doesn't make it special to make the playoffs at this point. Like,
no, you could just be good. If you're good, you get in.
You're going to have 8-4 teams that are going to make the playoffs. Like Iowa last year was 8-4. They would have made the playoff.
Yeah. No, I don't disagree with you. That making the playoffs should be hard. It should be hard. I know there's 9,000 teams now, but it should be hard, and it should be saved for the best to go out and compete for it. The beauty of it is everybody gets a mulligan. You can lose one game. It's not like before where, like, if you weren't perfect in the regular season, you probably weren't going to play for the national championship or be considered for it. But now everybody gets a mulligan, and I think that's okay, because everybody can have something go wrong or have a bad week. I mean, I'm old, so I remember all those great Florida State teams that would start out the year 1-2, and then by the end of the year, you knew they were the best team in college football, but they didn't have a chance to win the national championship.
No, I agree with that. And I think 4 teams probably wasn't enough, because you did deal with that of, let's say it was LSU for years would schedule tough openers and they'd lose their first game, whether it was Florida State or I think they lost to USC at one point, Clemson. And you lose the first game. One of those teams had to lose. And it's like, all right, well, you better run the table the rest of the way or else you're not going to have any chance to play for a national championship. So I do like that of there's a little more leeway, but like an 8-win team having a chance to play in a tournament for the national championship is too far. I think
4 losses is 4 losses. Let's go back to Auburn basketball. I know you guys don't like to compare tournaments, but when you saw all of Auburn's losses and all of Auburn's like 30-point losses, you're like, okay, come on. Are we really considering this team to compete for the national championship?
Yeah.
Vanderbilt baseball has a really big game today.
Yep.
Against
Florida.
Who they play? Florida, against Florida. Their quad 1 record coming into this tournament was 5-16. That's not good enough. They can still win their way in, but you lose 16 of those games. That says plenty. It says you're not consistently good enough to compete in a long grind to win. And so it's okay to have expectations. Okay, I know everybody talks about participation trophies. And it's expanding the NCAA basketball tournament. It's just, and I know there's more teams, but it just, it feels like you're opening yourself up to mediocrity, and mediocrity is not what makes playoffs special.
Yes.
It isn't.
Yeah, you look forward to, and I agreed that it needed to expand from 4, but you always look forward to the college football playoff in the 4-team era because you knew you were getting elite teams playing other elite teams. And there were blowouts in there, right? Like you look back, TCU, Georgia in the national championship game. That was a blowout. Or the first year, Oregon and Florida State, Jameis versus Marcus Mariota. Oregon took them behind the woodshed, but you got great games too. And I do miss the era where it's like, all right, you look at, and I get it. You're going to get to that point at the end of the playoffs, right? You're going to get to the 4, but these college football playoff games, it feels more like filler games just for TV money rather than actually putting the best teams on the field to compete for a national championship.
You're not talking about adding serious teams. It's like we talk about with the basketball expansion. You're talking about adding teams that are in 9th and 10th place in their conference.
Right.
And it's like, why do we need those teams? Have proven that they're not good enough. Why do we need them? And if teams are 8 and 4, hey, you had a nice year. Go play your bowl game and come back next year and try to win more. And it's just like it cheapens making the playoffs.
Right.
It does.
Right. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. We'll continue this conversation and finish up the first hour of the show right after this. Jake Lyman, Cory Curtis, Parker Kelly, next man up. 1025 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Cory Curtis, Parker Kelly alongside you. Talking college football playoff expansion, going to be a very large topic moving forward. Big Ten meetings going on right now, and Tony Pettiti said that they are 24 teams or bust this year. They will either go to 24 or stick with 12. SEC meetings are coming up next week, and it seems like the SEC is it's Jon Snow standing up there all by himself against the 24-team conferences. Everybody wants 24 except for the SEC. Cory,
why is that?
I think the SEC is trying to stand with ESPN, who ESPN, there probably isn't a huge financial incentive to go to 24 for them. So, and with the SEC, they know that their teams are going to get in every year, right? Like the SEC knows they're going to get 3, 4, 5 in a 12-team playoff every single year.
Yeah.
So
why
okay.
would they want that?
Right. I don't know. But the SEC, do you think they're going to be able to hold strong against the 24-team model that's being thrown out there?
Well, you got to remember, too, the SEC and Big Ten control the format of the future.
Yeah.
So really, it's, the ACC and the Big 12 can come out and support this 24-team playoff, but it's ultimately Pettiti and Sankey who are going to decide it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that means, so why are Pettiti and Sankey so much at odds? It's my failure that I haven't read enough into Sankey's comments. How does he articulate his desire to not expand? And again, I'm not for expanding to 24. I just don't know what reason that Sankey's given.
Yeah,
when he stands to get more teams than probably anybody.
Yeah, I'm reading an article right now. He said, this was from last week. He said, oh, no, I have to log in to get that one. He said basically that the focus has been on 16 the entire time. They don't feel like it needs to go to 24. I think a lot of it has basically been on just what's the point of doubling it after 2 years, right? Here's a good article.
So he's for expanding to 16, just not expanding to 24.
Yes. So he said this was at the APSE Southeast Region meeting at the Alabama Sports Hall of Fame last week. He said that focus hasn't changed. We're open to the conversation of 24 teams, but there are a lot of ideas out there that have to be supported with analysis and information, not just speculation. So I think they would like to delve deeper into what it would mean to go to 16. He says, we're trying to inform that with research. We've done that from our perspective with 16. We want to understand through some analytic support games that matter in an expanded environment and games that might not matter. So maybe that's the point that Sankey's trying to make is like, are you cheapening the product throughout the regular season by expanding to 24?
Yeah. Do you want to have Houston play Ohio State in round 1? I mean, that's kind of what he's talking about. And, the statement, coming out of ESPN that they have no desire to go beyond 16, makes a lot of sense, when that's what SEC is saying. I mean, they're lockstep in partnership, with the broadcasting. And so it makes sense that they are aligned in what their vision is. So the SEC is not on an island. They have the biggest sports network in the world walking side by side with them.
Yeah, and I think that's why we stay at 12 this year. Like I think that there is probably too much of a divide between the Big Ten and the SEC when it comes to 24 versus 16. So I think they're going to stay at 12, and that's a good thing. Like we just tripled the playoff from 4 to 12 2 years ago, and I did see. I think it was Ward Manuel, the AD at Michigan, said when talking about 24 that he has no desire to go beyond 24. But when you're jumping from 12 to 24 2 years after you went to 12, I feel like that shows that there is really no limit to how big that they're going to go. You may say right now, 24 is the biggest that we want to get. But 5 years down the road, is the money going to be good enough to go to 32 and then so on and so forth? Do we eventually just get to 64 and just do a March Madness tournament of football?
Yeah, I don't think anybody wants to play that many football games. I think
just kiss the regular season goodbye at that point.
Not be I feel confident in saying there will never be a 64 team
I
field.
agree with that.
Like the Big Ten should be happy. I mean, they've won the last 3 national championships.
Right.
I mean, the system's just fine for them. I know they've got, how many teams is the Big Ten up to now? 18?
Yes.
Yeah. And I mean, look, those checks are pretty big to each school. I mean, I know everybody always wants more, but I mean, come on.
Yeah, I mean, so
just go play.
last year they only got 3 teams in: Indiana, Ohio State, and Oregon.
Yeah, that they got 1/4 of the field. They got 25% of the field.
Right.
That's not only.
I guess that's
awesome.
true. But like the SEC got 5. So
Last
I
year
think
they got 5.
Yeah, they did. They got Georgia,
Okay.
Ole Miss, A&M, Oklahoma, Alabama.
Okay. All right.
In a 16-team playoff, and this could delve into our group of 5 thing, though. If you go to 24, are there going to be any auto bids? Like, I would say if you're going to 24, just get rid of the auto bid. If you're not one of the top 24 teams in the country, then you don't deserve to be in, even if you win your conference championship.
No, I agree. I mean, there should be no need for auto bids with 24 teams. And I don't want to argue whether they should be included or not. But I mean, and I think that Parker and I are in agreement on this, that, if you are going to allow the group of 6 in, they've got to earn their way in.
Yeah.
I'm not just saying put the group of 6 in there every year. I'm saying they should be eligible if they're worthy. If they've shown this team is worthy, by what they've produced during the year and where they are at in the rankings, then they should be included. They shouldn't be excluded based on their conference affiliation. But yeah, I would agree with you that automatic bids are pretty much useless once you get to that size format. I mean, now the ACC was hanging on to that automatic bid this last year.
Yes. Yeah. The ACC, Duke being their champion, they would have had only Miami still Virginia would have gotten into in a 24-team field. In a 24-team format, the Big Ten would have gotten 6 teams last year. USC, Michigan, and Iowa all would have gotten in. And the SEC would have gotten 6, 7, just 7. So Texas and Vanderbilt would have gotten added to it. So anyway, 615-737-1025. We can keep this conversation going into hour number 2. We'll also get an update on the Brendan Sorsby stuff, because it's been an interesting week with the defense that they're coming out with, and now they're bringing it to a judge who is a Texas
He's doing it
Tech
to support his teammates.
Was he betting on Romanian basketball to support his teammates too? Like, it's ridiculous. We'll get into all of that coming up in hour number 2. 615-737-1025. Jake Lyman, Cory Curtis, Parker Kelly. Next man up, 1025 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game, Jake Lyman, Cory Curtis from News 2, Parker Kelly with you on your Wednesday morning, broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly BI membership, where the buzz is always about great service. College football playoff expansion continues to be a hot topic as leagues across the country having their meetings this month. The SEC will meet down in Destin next week, and they are holding strong against this 2014 playoff. But I do wonder if the SEC eventually does cave, because it would mean more money for the SEC in general, I think, right? If you are getting rid of conference championship games, no matter what, with the next expansion, which that seems to be what Tony Pettiti is saying, that if you expand, the conference championship games are going to go away. I do think the SEC could take a long-term look at this and say, over the long haul, this is a 2014 playoff could be good for the SEC, with the member schools getting in at a much higher rate than a lot of the other conferences.
Yeah, I mean, look, they got 5 of 12, and I'm sure Vanderbilt would say it should have been 6. So I mean, I wonder in a 2014 format last year, how many teams would the SEC have had?
7.
I think there's 7. I mean, so you've got the potential for 7 teams to play not just one but multiple games, in a playoff, and flex your dominance, that you perceive even more. So I stand on the notion that it cheapens some games and you have more non-competitive games. I agree with that, but I think the SEC's got plenty to gain. I do.
It is funny. You know what conference would have gained the most from expanding this playoff? The Big 12 had one team.
Notre Dame.
No, well, yeah, Notre Dame too. Notre Dame basically would just get an auto bid every year. When's the last time Notre Dame wasn't in the top 24 at the end of the year? With the Big 12, they got one team in last year. They got Texas Tech in. In a 2014 playoff, they would have gotten 5 teams in.
Utah?
Yeah, Utah would have gotten in, BYU would have gotten in, Arizona would have gotten in, and Houston too. So you would have gotten 5 instead of 1.
So that makes that push really understandable, from that aspect, that, we can go from 1 to 5 teams. I mean, that's a massive financial influx. And also, as you're looking to recruit, against the SEC and the Big Ten, kids know their chances of going to the playoffs are better at one place than the other. And if you can expand, your footprint in those playoffs, you've got a better case to be made beyond the dollars that you're offering. And by the way, Texas Tech, thanks for showing up for that thing.
Yeah. We talked about this last hour too, of I just hate the participation trophy of it all, of like, all right, if you're in the top 25, you're probably going to make the playoffs. And I do wonder, what does that do for coaches and expectations? Like, just to use Tennessee as an example with Josh Heupel. Like, I think every year at Tennessee, the expectation is they want to make the playoff. Now, if you double the amount of teams from 12 to 24, like,
you better make the playoff.
I want to know, would Tennessee fans be happy if Josh Heupel is just like the 17 seed every single year and in there? Like,
no.
And I think the answer is no, but it would give coaches and administrations the ability to, like, well, he makes the playoff every year. What are you guys upset about?
Look what happened with Sean McDermott this year. What happened to him?
Yeah, but that's the NFL.
I know, but if the college football wants to be the NFL so bad, right, and they expand this playoff.
Along those lines, look at all the heat Matt LaFleur's getting.
Yeah.
I know he's just got extended, but he's been the 7 seed, 3 years in a row? And, people, they're not happy with that in Green Bay.
Tennessee fans aren't going to be happy going 8-4. It's still 8-4.
Well,
they went 8-4 this year and weren't happy.
Maybe Tennessee is not the right example, because Tennessee just had Tennessee thinks they should be one of the elite teams in college football every single year. Maybe a better example is like one of these, Iowa probably won't. I'm trying to think of a good example of a team that's like hey, the expectation should be higher, but it's like, oh, if you just make the playoffs every year,
Let's take Notre Dame for example. I feel 100% confident saying an 8-4 Notre Dame would make a 2014 playoff.
Absolutely.
No, I don't know about that.
Look, I mean, look at all the 8-4 teams that would have made it last year. Why
There's
would
only
Notre
one.
Dame be one of them?
Only one 8-4 team would have made it. Iowa.
Okay.
An 8-4 Notre Dame team would be given the benefit of the doubt.
I don't think their schedule, they don't play a hard enough schedule. Like if they were playing, if they played Clemson, Florida State, USC, Michigan every single year, then sure, yeah, if you're playing a bunch of the top ACC teams, you're playing your signature rivalries every year, then maybe. But they haven't been doing that, right? Like they play a weak schedule.
They play who they play. They can't help it when those teams are good and when they're not good. I mean, Boise State had a down year last year. That was not Notre Dame's fault. They schedule teams. Do they have some weaker teams on their schedule? Yes, they do. So does every team in the Big Ten and every team in the SEC. You know, are those conferences stronger top to bottom than Notre Dame's schedule? Probably. But if we're going to sit here and pretend that Notre Dame wasn't one of the 12 best teams in the country last year,
I think they were.
I think this conversation is stupid.
No, I think they were. I'm just saying an 8-4 resume, they are not getting in.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, yeah. I mean, look, if they lose to every legit team on their schedule and have nothing but wins over San Jose State and Navy, no, they're not going to get in.
Well, listen to their schedule this year. If they lose, I would say even if they lost 3 of these games, I would not put that. And obviously it depends on what every other team does, but I wouldn't say that they would be guaranteed a spot. Wisconsin, Rice, Michigan State, Purdue, North Carolina, Stanford. That's their first 6 games. So you shouldn't lose any of those. BYU, sure, that's at BYU. That you could lose that game. Navy, Miami, you could lose that one. Boston College, SMU, Syracuse. If they don't win 10 games on that schedule, they don't deserve to play in a college football playoff.
I'm in agreement with you.
But yeah, I mean, still, you know, you're talking about teams, a lot of who have been historically good teams. It's not, you know, they've got North Carolina and Wisconsin on their schedule.
Yeah.
A few years ago, that's 2 dominant football teams.
That is true.
You expect them to be better than they are. I'm not going to apologize for any team who schedules major teams. Miami is on their schedule, correct? Playoff team.
Miami is, yes.
Right. SMU 2 years ago, playoff team.
No, and right? I see what you're saying of
going to Provo, Utah to take on BYU.
No, that's a tough game.
I mean, you know, you're acting like this is just littered with cupcakes. The reason we expect Notre Dame to win 10 games is Notre Dame is really good.
Well, I think
Marcus Freeman is really good.
It's more your first point of Wisconsin, Michigan State, and North Carolina historically are decent programs. Yeah. And
they're down.
They're down.
They didn't just schedule those games last summer.
But you can make that same argument in almost every sport of you schedule those games years in advance. And for Vanderbilt this year, they went out and played in baseball. They played tough opponents early on in the season, and they lost some of those games.
Whacked.
But all of those teams that they played that were expected to be good didn't end up being very good. And that's why their RPI is where it is right now. So it's yes, you can look at it and say, well, they didn't know when they scheduled those teams that they wouldn't have a good season. But you gotta deal with what's the reality of this year's field.
Yeah, I mean, look, 8-4, you're lucky to get in, no matter who you are. But I mean, with a 24-team field, I feel like it's going to be inevitable that we're going to see some 8-4 teams.
100%. 100%.
And Notre Dame will probably get a strong lean, but they're going to need some quality wins because we've seen this year that the committee was not afraid to leave them out, even though to me they were clearly one of the 12 best teams.
Well, and Tony Pettiti, the one point that he did make about the 2014 playoff I agree with is if you schedule a 2014 playoff, teams are going to be more willing to schedule hard games in the regular season, right? Because
I would agree with that.
You realize at 2014 playoff, if you're an SEC or a Big Ten team, and I know, my intro said 10 wins is an SEC school you're in until it didn't. I was in agreement with that. I would think 9 wins as an SEC or Big Ten team should be good enough to put you in a 2014 playoff almost no matter what.
Yes, wholeheartedly. I can't see many of those teams ever being left out.
Right. So you give yourself a lot more leeway. The difference between only being able to lose 2 games and 3 games, it may not seem like a lot, but it is a lot.
Well, and then you don't need that conference championship game to add a loss
Right.
to one of your best teams.
No, 100%. And that's, I mean, you look at Alabama was a 3-loss team technically because they lost in the SEC championship
Yeah.
game. It didn't hurt them, but they still got in. I think that is the one point that Pettiti made that I agree with is that is an advantage of a 2014 playoff is teams won't be scared to schedule harder in the non-conference.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I know the SEC has mandated it. So, they've got all their conference games and you're mandated to play another Power 4 school.
Yeah. But like Power 4 school, there's definitely different tiers to that. Like you can schedule.
There's Rutgers and there's Michigan.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
615-737-1025 is the phone number. We'll take your thoughts on expansion. But I did want to touch on this Brendan Sorsby situation because they filed the lawsuit, and I know you're going to do whatever you can to try and save your eligibility for this season, but it's just stupid. It really is. And we can get into it coming up next. 615-737-1025. Our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Jake Lyman, Cory Curtis, Parker Kelly, next man up, 1025 The Game. Next man up, 1025, the game. Jake Lyman, Cory Curtis, Parker Kelly. This is petty. I like it, Parker.
I'm being petty today, Cory.
We're gonna get into
Okay.
We're gonna get into Brendan Sorsby here, who he has been a betting man over the last few years. The expected quarterback at Texas Tech transferred from Cincinnati 3 weeks ago. He stepped away from the team and said he was seeking treatment for a gambling addiction. On Monday, he and his legal team filed suit in Lubbock County against the NCAA for reinstatement. And this lawsuit, it's ridiculous. Like I totally understand that he's not going to just lay over and say, all right, fine, I'm not going to play. He's going to exercise all of his options. But man, like betting on your own team, we can start with that, is just like, that is already enough that he should receive a permanent ban. He said that he was doing it to feel like he had a stake in the team. Here was the quote in the affidavit. I rationalized placing those bets as a way to feel more connected to the team, to root for my friends, and to feel like I had a real stake in the games that I otherwise was not involved in. Whew.
It reminds me of the principal conducting the debate on Billy Madison, saying that we are all
That is the dumbest thing that I have ever heard in my entire life.
Yeah, ever heard. And I fear that we are all dumber for having listened to it.
I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
That's exactly how I feel about this. Because number one, I mean, the only thing that the other side has to say is you checked yourself in for gambling addiction. That's got nothing to do with, now you're saying you were just being a nice guy and a good teammate. You didn't check yourself into the clinic, for an addiction to being a nice guy and a good teammate. Okay. And no one, I hope I'm right on this. No one on the planet is dumb enough to buy that excuse. Look, I'm a bettor. I don't know how much you guys are bettors. I enjoy wagering on games, whether they be hockey or basketball. I don't do it all the time. I haven't made a wager in months. But I do enjoy doing it from time to time. And I enjoy doing it because I enjoy doing it. I like the thrill. I like having the action in the game. I like thinking that I actually know something about it. Okay. I never do it because I think I'm being nice to somebody else. Hey, Julian, I know you're a Lakers fan and I want to feel connected with you. So I bet on your team today. I feel like this is one of those times where the judge, needs to treat him like Giuliani got treated and revoke his law license, and that they should have to pay the fee for everyone who came to court that day because they are wasting everyone's time.
Well, and so Cory, like I am governed by the exact same rules that Brendan Sorsby is. Like as somebody who,
and they're simple,
right? As somebody who works around an NCAA team, I call the games for Vanderbilt women's basketball. I am not allowed to bet on any college sport or any pro sport that has a NCAA championship. So like golf has an NCAA championship. Couldn't bet on that. Like NASCAR. Sure. That's fine.
Can you bet on golf?
Yeah, I think you can. I don't do any of it because I'm just like, what's the point of doing it when, I mean, and so for me, I've always like conceptualized it as like, yeah, if I'm putting $5 bets on something, would somebody find out? Probably not. Like, I don't think anybody's like monitoring my activity, but the consequence, you have to deal with the consequences if you did. And so that's why I'm like, I play by the rules because that is the rules that I am governed by, and I want to keep my job. And for Brendan Sorsby, like, it's not just that he bet on his own team. That's obviously the biggest thing. He also bet on the MLB, on tennis, on Romanian soccer, Turkish basketball, and even the Nathan's hot dog eating contest. Like that one, actually, I think he's okay.
Got a problem.
He's okay on. Yeah, he's got a problem. And it's like, I understand what he's saying of like the NCAA should prioritize the well-being of their athletes, but you broke the rules, and you broke the rules in a big way. You got to deal with the consequences of it.
Well, and that's not the argument you're making. You're making the argument that you were just being a nice guy and a good teammate. I think you'd make a stronger case if you came in and say, I have an illness. this got out of my control. I could not stop myself. I have checked myself into rehab to regain control of my life. And once I have proven that I have done that, and I submit to, weekly therapy sessions and support groups to continue controlling my addiction, I would like to be welcomed back in and be allowed to play again. I think that is a much stronger case than the feeble, pathetic excuse that he's coming to court with.
Yeah, I agree. And I really just, I don't understand why this is why there seems to be a chance that he gets reinstated. I guess it's because
there is no chance he gets reinstated.
The judge that he's going to is a Texas Tech alum. And that didn't help Joey Aguilar, who is a Tennessee alum, his judge. It didn't help Charles Bediaco, at least the second time. The first time it did. But I don't think there's much of a chance here, but it is funny. Like you get that home court advantage there. You're going in Lubbock County for a Texas Tech grad as your judge.
Well, I mean, look, and even if you win, you have set it up for appeal, like immediately to go back to court and say that judge needed to recuse himself.
Right.
And say this wasn't a fair trial. So, again, I understand why they're doing it. They think it's their only shot to win with this, but I think the judge risks embarrassing himself by moving it all on it.
Exactly.
And like we're in a day and age where people don't mind completely embarrassing themselves for selfish gains. So, maybe they will. Maybe they will.
615-737-1025 is the phone number. Let's go to our phone lines. Kenny the mailman is called in. Kenny, good morning. Thanks for calling.
He hung up on you.
Kenny. We'll
the
see
mailman is not delivering.
We'll see if Kenny calls back.
We'll get him back.
No, and this is I would guess that this is not an isolated incident, right? Like Brendan Sorsby's not the only college athlete that's out there gambling, I would guess, right? Like I'm sure there are other people out there, but the NCAA, I do think this is good of them of make an example of it. Like you can't slap on the wrist with this because you need to.
This isn't a bet.
No, right.
This is many, many, many bets.
Thousands of bets.
Yes.
And I like, and again, like it's not just betting on Indiana. He broke all of the gambling rules that the NCAA has. They have to make an example of him, and they have to say, like, hey, if you do this, you're never going to play sports again. So make sure before you do this, you better know what you're doing. Let's go back to the phone lines. I believe
he's what we call an equal opportunity offender.
Yes, he is. Let's go back. I think we've got Kenny back. Kenny, thanks for calling. What you got for us?
Hey, man, throw a net around me. Don't drop me.
Oh, okay. We might have accidentally dropped you instead of.
No, I told him I fat fingered the board.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, that was on me.
This is the second stupidest comment I've heard in many, many years. Do you know what was number one?
What?
Years ago, the Menendez brothers during sentencing said, "Judge, please be lenient on us. We're orphans."
Oh, no.
Man, I watched that movie. Story. That was gross.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know what I'm talking about. Look it up. True story. Be lenient on us. We're orphans. A lot of people don't understand the complexity of what the whole situation is. This young man left Cincinnati. They're suing him because he owes them a large amount of money where he signed said he would have to pay if he left, leaving him open. This young man can be blackmailed easily. He has no money. He has no money at all. There goes a loud trash truck. Says he has no money at all. So he's open to any kind of pressure from anywhere. He showed you that he does not have the discipline to not get away from these problems like this. He shouldn't be worried about the NCAA. A lot of people are talking about, well, go in the supplemental draft. Go there. The NFL, I don't think they can touch this guy.
That is a good question,
It's a good
Kenny.
point.
And we can talk about that next. Appreciate the call, Kenny.
Hey, y'all have a great day. See you later.
Thanks, Kenny. Yeah, we'll get into the supplemental draft part of this as well. There's so many funny, just like he talked about the Menendez brothers. Like on a lighter note, have you seen Cory the dude?
Not a double murder.
Yeah, a lighter note from that. The guy who stole a Miami Dolphins jersey and then showed up to court wearing it.
Oh my gosh.
That one's my favorite. It's like, you are accused today of stealing a Miami Dolphins jersey, and then the camera pans to him and he's got like a Ryan Tannehill jersey on.
I don't even own a jersey, Your Honor.
Sir, I've never even seen a Miami Dolphins jersey in my life.
I'm a Browns fan.
Well, the other one was it was during COVID, the Zoom courtroom where the dude had his license suspended, and then he's like, let me just pull on over here. And the judge is like, are you driving right now? You're having a court session to see if we can get your license suspended.
I do remember that.
His face has become the meme with the stadium pulse on it when it's like, 615.
It's amazing that we as a species have made it this far.
Oh God. I mean, it's just like I don't understand how you could do that and like just it doesn't appeal or you don't realize you're like, oh, maybe I'm doing a Zoom call for my suspended license. Maybe I shouldn't be driving during it. But yes, the Brennan Sorsby stuff, I don't see any way out of it. He is going to court and we're going to see, but I don't think the NCAA can have him ever play college sports again. So the question becomes, would the NFL
and I think
touch him?
Kenny's right. Yeah.
Yeah, and the NFL supplemental draft would be coming up later this summer. We can talk about it next. Would there be a team that is willing to take a chance on Brennan Sorsby? 615-737.
I mean, the Browns. Browns.
I think there's a chance somebody might.
They probably give him a guaranteed contract.
Yeah. Hey, we're going to give you $240 million.
Guaranteed.
No, we're going to give you $240 million in free bets on DraftKings.
Yeah,
not
there
actual,
you go. Just don't
actual money, but
just don't
make bets.
Don't make the bets on the at the facility. We learned that from Nicholas Petit-Frere.
That was fantasy football.
Right. Yes, you're right. It was.
The same thing.
615-737-1025. We will take a break. We'll be right back and get into, could Brennan Sorsby be a pick in the supplemental draft? The 615 Open Golf Tournament might be sold out, but you can bid on all kinds of awesome experiences. To directly support Folds of Honor at 615open.com/auction. Have an unforgettable time while supporting a great cause. 615open.com/auction. Jake Lyman, Cory Curtis, Parker Kelly, next man up. 1-2-5 the game. We just got a firsthand look at some of the court proceedings down in Lubbock, Texas, after Brendan Sorsby explains why he was betting on Indiana football back in 2022.
Mm-hmm.
That was well done, Parker.
One of my all-time favorite clips right there.
It's that's a great movie.
Yeah.
I mean, the old Adam Sandler stuff. I remember when I was younger, my parents got me the dual set DVD with Billy Madison and Happy Gilmore, and I would watch those movies nonstop. Tune in for the Indy 500 race on 102.5 The Game this Sunday. Coverage begins at 10 a.m. and is brought to you by Twin Peaks, home of the 29-degree beer and the Bruschetta Bourbon Music City Grand Prix. Jake Lyman, Cory Curtis, Parker Kelly. We're sorting through the Brendan Sorsby saga. Bet on his own team back when he was at Indiana, and of course, many bets on professional sports as well. And the question has become, all right, very, very, very unlikely that he will ever play college football again. Would a team in the NFL take a chance on him in the supplemental draft? It's coming up probably next month, I think I saw, maybe in July. And it basically, the way the supplemental draft works, for anybody out there who doesn't know, is no one has to pick anybody. These are players who maybe were deemed ineligible by their team, kicked off their team, and want to just go into the NFL rather than dealing with the NCAA. I'm sure there's other types of players in there as well, but no one has to pick a player. You go through the draft order 1 through 32 for 7 rounds, and teams are allowed to make a pick if they want to. But I believe, and Cory, correct me if I'm wrong, if you make a pick, you lose that pick in next year's draft. So that
is correct.
So basically, it is a game of chicken with Brendan Sorsby. If somebody wants to take him, you just wait it out to see how late you can actually use that pick. I wouldn't be shocked if somebody did use a pick on Brendan Sorsby, but I don't think it's going to be like in the 3rd or 4th round of the supplemental draft. I think it would be closer to the very end that somebody says, you know what, this is a guy who, with a good season, could have been a day 2 quarterback next year. Let's take him with a 7th round pick. It's going to be more valuable than whatever we could get next year in the draft.
Well, let me put it to you this way. I'll put it in terms that Brendan Sorsby can understand. I would put the odds at plus 800 or plus 1,000.
Wow.
Of an NFL team burning a pick on him. Okay. If you could make a lot of money, I think, if an NFL team actually picked him. NFL teams love their draft picks.
Yeah.
Right. Love their draft picks. They're not going to give up one for next year unless they're sure about it. They're not going to take a flyer on a guy. And they're not. Look, they don't want to bring in a guy with a known gambling problem. I mean, what did Calvin Ridley do that got him suspended for a year? I mean,
he's betting on his own team.
It was like 4 bets.
Yeah.
But it was like 4 bets, right? It wasn't many. And he didn't have a problem. He just thought he was having fun, right? Just doing whatever. I mean, it was, kind of ignorance, it seemed like. About the issue. I don't know. I could be horribly wrong about it, but the 2 cases don't seem to be the same at all. And he got jettisoned for a year. All right. I don't see an NFL team looking at this young man who obviously has a massive problem with gambling and saying, yes, we want to bring him into our quarterback room. All right. Like Kenny talked about, he could be compromised easily. And now you have a person in your locker room, in your quarterback room, in your offensive meeting rooms, who can become inside information for Vegas, for a price, ultimately. That's the concern. So yeah, I think I think the odds are very slim in a team taking a shot.
I honestly, I would say it might be closer to 50-50 that he's a pick in my mind. I mean, I think
wow. Maybe we should wager on that.
No, Brendan Sorsby might agree with you.
Who's being petty now?
I'm here for it.
So I pulled up a way too early mock draft from right after the draft wrapped up from CBS Sports. It had Brendan Sorsby as the 8th overall pick, which I think that's ambitious. I think there's a lot of projection in there, but like if there are teams that viewed him as a possible first round talent, maybe you do use a 6th or a 7th round pick. There has not been a player taken in the supplemental draft since 2019. That was Jalen Thompson, who was picked in the 5th round of the supplemental draft.
Wait, I thought it was 2023. 2019 was the one before that.
Let me see.
Because it doesn't have to be every year. I know that.
Well, no, maybe they had one, but I don't think anyone was picked in 2020.
Okay, gotcha.
2019 was Jalen Thompson. 2018, I remember this one, Adonis Alexander. He got kicked off Virginia Tech's football team as a cornerback, and the Redskins now the Commanders took him in the 6th round. There are a couple supplemental picks in here that, obviously ended up being really good players. Josh Gordon was a supplemental pick after being kicked off Baylor's team for failing a test for marijuana.
Did Lael Collins from LSU end up in the supplemental draft, or did he just get picked later?
He just got picked later, I believe.
Okay.
Some of the other names that I recognize on here, Terrell Pryor was a supplemental pick back in 2011.
And he had a good NFL career. Not a great one, but a good one.
As a wide receiver. But he was drafted as a quarterback in the 3rd round by the Raiders of the supplemental draft in 2011.
Of course he was.
Ahmad Brooks in 2006. The Bengals took him in the 3rd round.
Is he a running back?
Linebacker.
Okay. Don't remember.
How about this one? Rob Moore, back in 1990. He was a 1st round supplemental draft out of Syracuse. He graduated from college with a year of eligibility remaining and did not declare in time for the regular draft.
He played for the Cardinals, right?
The Lions was his main team. He was drafted by the Jets,
I can't remember anything. My brain doesn't work anymore.
He was sorry, I'm thinking of somebody completely different. No, he was drafted by the Jets, Cardinals, Broncos. I'm
okay. He did play for the Cardinals.
I
always thought he was Rod Tidwell.
Rob Moore was the Titans wide receivers coach a few years ago.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Here are the two that I think are the biggest names. And I get the supplemental draft clearly was more prevalent back in the day. Brian Bosworth back in 1987. He was eligible.
He was a 1st round pick, right?
Yes, he was. He decided to wait for the supplemental draft after being dismissed from Oklahoma in the 1986 season. And then that same year, Chris Carter was a 4th round pick.
Wow, I had no idea.
Yeah.
I hate to bring, I'm not making accusation. Did he have a substance abuse situation?
No, he was suspended for signing with an agent.
Okay. All right. Forgive me I'm not trying to cast that shadow on anyone. I was trying to remember what had happened with him.
No, so there has not been a pick in the supplemental draft since 2019, but I do think Sorsby is probably the biggest name that's gone in there in a while. We'll have to see. Again, it's a game of chicken. It's if a team values him, obviously you want to give up the lowest pick possible. So you wait it out until there's a point where maybe you feel like it's worth it. But I think I saw Adam Schefter put out when the draft is going to be.
I know this. The league doesn't look, they embrace gambling now, but they don't like any questions about their players being involved in it. So I don't know how the league is going to weigh on this to its teams with him if he enters it, but I can't imagine they'll be encouraging everybody, hey, go ahead and take him in the 1st round. It sends a great message and really what we want in our locker rooms. We really want fans wondering if this guy's leaking information to everyone or throwing games.
Yeah, no, it's a fair point. He has until June 22nd to determine whether he wants to enter the supplemental draft, and the draft would happen in mid-July if he does. So we will see. But right now, he is trying to sue for his eligibility. I'm going to go with the Mike Vrabel. Probably not. That's actually going to work out for him. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. We'll wrap up hour number 2 after this. We'll talk some Titans in hour number 3. OTAs have begun. Tomorrow's workout will be open to the media. We'll talk about the Titans as they begin their offseason program. Jake Lyman, Cory Curtis, Parker Kelly, next man up. 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Cory Curtis, Parker Kelly with you. Finishing up the second hour here on the show. We'll talk Titans coming up at 11. Let's give something away here. We got 2 tickets once again to the Sports Illustrated Resorts 250 at the Nashville Super Speedway coming up on Saturday, May 30th. Be caller number 3 at 615-737-1025, and you'll win 2 tickets to the Sports Illustrated Resorts 250 at the Nashville Super Speedway next Saturday, May 30th. Cory, before we wrap up the hour here, we did get a text from Trevor wanting to get your thoughts on Hani Mukhtar's hat trick to get the win over LAFC on Sunday night, making Nashville undisputed the top team in the MLS right now.
It was a spectacular win for Nashville. I mean, without question, playing without Sam Surridge, without Andy Nahar, without Eddie Tags, and then without Patrick Yazbek, playing one of the better higher-end teams in the league for the West. And Mukhtar, who hasn't been quite the scorer that we'd seen when he won the Golden Boot just a few years ago, allowed to be more of a facilitator now with players like Sam Surridge on the field, stepping up and delivering for his team in a huge way. Two spectacular, free kick goals, the second one, set up by the first one and just absolutely snapping it into the top right corner. He was absolutely, tremendous, and showed, that when they need him, he can still be that guy. And that was a tremendous victory, and a tremendous performance by him. And Brian Schwacke also, I know they gave up 2 goals in that game, but he could have given up 4 or 5.
Yeah.
The keeper for Nashville, saved the game in the 88th minute, absolutely saved the game. And so, they continue to face injuries and continue to just stack W's, and just their last 2 wins, knowing what they're going on the field with, just really, really impressive. Beating New England in New England 3-0, and then coming back home on short rest and beating LAFC. And that, that's the other thing is, Hani Mukhtar plays virtually every second of every game. And for him to go out there and do that was tremendous. And there are young players emerging. I mean, Warren Madrigal has clearly, the more time he's gotten with Surge out, is becoming a more and more dominant presence on the field for Nashville.
No, it's been such an impressive year so far, and obviously, disappointing to fall in the semifinals of the CONCACAF Champions Cup, but the ultimate goal is still to win the MLS. And right now, Nashville is the best team in the league, 30 points, 9-1-3 this year. They have been virtually unstoppable.
Yeah.
The only loss is still the 1-0 loss against Chicago. Is that it?
Yep, that's it. And also, they have the best record in the league with a game in hand.
Right. And they get to finish off before the World Cup on Saturday at Geodis Park against NYCFC. 7:30.
And they're a good team, too.
They are. And
they haven't played many cupcakes. That's the other part of this. They've played Atlanta, but largely, they've played New England twice, who's like in second place going into last week.
Right.
They've played Inter Miami. They've played Charlotte, who's one of the upper teams in the league. They just played LAFC. They're not piling up points on the dogs here. They're beating the best teams in the league and doing it shorthanded.
No, they've been great, and it is a little bit strange though. Like, they've got all the momentum, they played really well, and after Saturday, you got to basically take 2 months off for the World Cup, and so we'll have to see if it's such a long season that you have to sustain this level of play. But obviously, you'd rather be in first place at this point than anywhere else.
Yes, yes, they're going to have a long break, and nobody really wants to take that break right now. But the positive is, all those guys who are hurt should be back when they get back.
Yes, that is true, because Nashville, I don't think, has any players that I can think of that are going to be playing in the World Cup, maybe 1 or 2. So it's going to be an opportunity to rest.
Yeah, I think Ahmed Kassim.
Right. Yeah.
Ahmed Kassim has the opportunity to play for Iraq, and Yazbek and Tagseth were candidates for their teams, but they're now hurt.
Right. So Maybe a couple of guys will be out there, but for the most part, going to be an opportunity to rest and gear up for the final couple of months of the MLS season. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. We'd love to hear from you. Our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. We've got one more hour on the program. Let's get into the Titans coming up next. OTAs are open tomorrow. The media will be able to watch practice, so we'll talk about what we want to see from the Titans as they begin their offseason program. Jake Lyman, Cory Curtis, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 102.5, the game final hour on your Wednesday morning. Jake Lyman, Cory Curtis, Parker Kelly, broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Getting into the Titans here in the final hour. OTAs are underway. And Cory, I know we can't really get too much from OTAs, but when you have a new coaching staff coming in, it is an important time of the year to set your foundation, especially on the offensive side of the ball. I do think that this next month, getting out on the field, Brian Dable, Cam Ward could be crucial to try and hit the ground running when training camp opens in July.
Well, look, we can see, number one, how healthy Cam Ward is. Number two, we can see what his footwork looks like. And number three, we can see how, much on the same page he and Carnell Tate and Wan'Dale Robinson are. I mean, we've seen it before in camp where quarterbacks are connecting with guys or are not connecting with guys. And so, we saw Will Levis and Calvin Ridley struggle to get together, and that carried into the season. So, it's largely against air. That's kind of the way it is, but that you can still start to get an idea, especially with mechanics.
Right. And you make a good point of Cam Ward coming off the injury. Now, we've seen the Twitter videos and Instagram videos of him making throws, but those are pre-selected by the social media team. It will be nice to have, media going to be out there tomorrow, get to see what Cam Ward looks like as he's worked his way back from that AC joint sprain.
We might need a telescope to do it, but we'll be there.
I have heard that the vantage point is not great over there anymore.
Well, let me just say I'm grateful that Cam Ward wasn't injured by the Titans film crew in the last few weeks in practice.
Yeah. And the Titans, there is a lot of new faces that are over there this week, getting their first opportunities. And, they've been out there a little bit, but they're all working together. This is phase 3 of the offseason. And you're going to get an opportunity to see. They'll do some 7-on-7 and 11-on-11 drills. Obviously they're not padded, but you're going to get to see what this offense might look like. And the offensive line is another area that I'm going to be looking at. I'm not sure that they're going to have like a specific set of 1s and 2s quite yet, but you may start to get an idea of how that center and right guard competition is going to look when training camp does open.
We're going to see who goes first. That's for sure.
Yeah.
We're going to see who's lined up, to J.C. Latham.
Yeah.
When the first snaps are taken. And so it'll be, I think all eyes will be on that. And then how quickly, or if other guys rotate through with that group, if they give like multiple guys looks at those spots. I think that's one of the very largest things that people will be looking at.
Right. That was what I was kind of alluding to is I think they are going to rotate. Like, I don't know if you're going to, head into the offseason and training camp and say, all right, Schlotman and Volson, you guys are with the 1s and everybody else work with the 2s. I do think Jackson Slater is going to get an opportunity at right guard, maybe even at center, to prove that he can be the guy, because you'd prefer to have the young guy who you have cheap and controllable for the next 3 years rather than a 1-year deal for Cordell Volson or Austin Schlotman. So that the offensive line, I do think, is going to be that's where some of the tweet storms are going to come from is, all right, who's up there starting at center and right guard as they open up the practice?
Well, the force is strong with Jackson Slater.
Yeah.
I've heard. Hopefully he can channel it and achieve oneness with the force and in one of those spots.
I guess we had to postpone the lightsaber duel with you and Parker until next week.
Yeah, well, he doesn't have one. That's one problem.
You would have to bring one.
I did show him in the live stream.
It's BYOL.
I don't have a second one. They're too expensive. It's bring your own lightsaber. That's right.
I'll have to borrow one.
Let's go to our phone line.
Nerd alert.
Yeah. Our phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Our good friend Trey has called in. Trey, good morning. Thanks for calling.
Wow, it's late.
Hey, y'all thought y'all was going to get away today, didn't you? Hey,
Trey, guess where Julian went for lunch the other day?
My
He went to the Chiba Hut. Sunday night, he came in with dinner. I said, "What'd you get?" He said, I went to a place called Chiba Hut. And I said, "I know the Chiba Hut because Trey told me all about it."
Yes, it's a good little restaurant. I deliver over here in this area, and they do really, really well. And, the sandwiches, they get a lot of business. Hey, yeah, they're really good people over there. I know the owner. Well, he runs the place. But, hey, I wanted to say that what I'm looking for this year, during these practices, OTAs, is I want to see better timing from Cam Ward. That's my number one thing, is I want to see better timing with Cam Ward. I want to see him to go through his projections better than he did last year. And like I always said, the way the team performs is all going to depend on Cam Ward. His ability to be able to navigate that team and get that team down that field so they can score some touchdowns instead of field goals. They had 100 and some odd points last year in field goals. Like, that's unacceptable, And I also want to see what the defensive line looks like, and I also want to see the new guys, the draft guys, be with the ones. They need all the reps they can get. And I want to see what the cornerback room look like, as far as like the size and stuff on what the cornerbacks look like. Because, lately we've been trash in that department, really. So I think we're going to be very, very good. And I hope, here in the next year or two that we win the South. I think we can win the South if Cam Ward do what he's supposed to do. And, it's going to be big with the Super Bowl coming to town, too. So they need to get themselves together. Hey, and Corey, you had my blood pressure up last week.
Yeah?
Yeah, you had my blood pressure up last week. I was like, what is Corey doing? Corey,
get in line, Trey.
Corey,
get in line.
Crazy. Hey, I love y'all. Y'all have a good day, okay?
You too.
Thanks, Trey. Have a good one.
Thank you. You too.
Always appreciate Trey calling in. And, again, there's always good points that Trey makes. And I think the cornerback room is one of those spots that I will have my eyes on. Alontae Taylor and Cordell Flott are being paid a lot of money to come in here and be your starting cornerbacks this year. I think they need to live up to that expectation. Obviously, OTAs in May. It is May 20th. So, take everything with a grain of salt. But I do think those are two guys that I'm excited to see out on the field.
Well, and then, who's going to be the third? And I know there's a lot of fingers pointing at Cam Harris right now. Who's the young man they got from Kansas City? Josh Williams?
Yeah, Josh Williams.
He's a really long player who can certainly play special teams, but, I think he's going to get a chance to compete, for playing time. We'll see, we'll see if he can do it, but that's a group that certainly does have to develop. But the main thing with that group is they need to be their top two guys to be their top two guys. And that's not what we've seen here the last few years. Is they brought in people to be the top two guys and haven't delivered top two guy performances. And that, now when you're immediately into your third, fourth, and fifth guys at the cornerback position, you're already playing with a hand tied behind your back. And they don't need that this year. They need those signings to deliver. They don't have to be the best players in the NFL, but they certainly need to be the best cornerbacks on the Tennessee Titans.
Yes. Yeah. Alontae Taylor and Cordell Flott do not have to be all pros this year, but they have to be starting caliber corners. You're paying.
They have to be Titans all pros.
Yeah.
That's for
right.
Sure.
Yes. They have to be guys that you look at and it doesn't look like he's a liability out there. And, you're paying Alontae Taylor $20 million a year. Flott's getting 15.
Yeah, it needs to be good.
Those guys need to be good, productive football players.
Mm-hmm. And on the field.
Right. Yeah. That's the availability is the number one ability, and they need to be out there. I do think that the one-on-ones in mini camp, off-season program, training camp are going to be fun to watch this year with Taylor and Flott and Marcus Harris going up against Carnell Tate. Get to see where Carnell Tate stands against guys who have proven to be solid veteran cornerbacks. It's not like he's going up against Darrell Baker every single day. So I am excited to see some of those.
Do not disparage Darrell Baker.
Darrell Baker, I kind of wish, looking at this cornerback room, I wish Darrell Baker was back.
Yeah.
Beyond the three guys that we mentioned on the outside, they really don't have anybody else. So that's
you know what, Darren Baker always proved to be a guy that they could tap and say go, and he'd be there.
Yeah.
And I never, I mean, look, he was not a great player, but I don't felt like he was a terrible player. Really good human being, good person to talk to, and a really good attitude about his spot in the NFL, and also a player not afraid to expect more from himself. And I think he's in Miami now, so we'll see how he does down there, and we wish him well. But certainly they believe they've upgraded, and they should believe they've upgraded. But paying guys $20 million a year doesn't make them $20 million players. It just makes them players earning $20 million.
Yes,
so
100%.
They've got to achieve that performance.
No, and Darrell Baker had his good moments with the Titans. I would compare him a little bit to like LaShawn Sims a few years ago. Like LaShawn Sims was definitely not a starting caliber NFL cornerback, but he had his moments. Jadeveon Clowney called him out, and he went out and made a play against DeAndre Hopkins a few years ago.
One of the great sideline videos of all time.
I've never heard of
know
you.
Who you are. Interception to win the game. Double.
615-737-1025. Raise your glass with Tennessee Brew Works, proud partner and official craft beer of the football offseason coverage on ESPN 1025 The Game. We will keep talking Titans coming up next. Corey, I'm sure you saw the report Terry McCormick had that the Freak is going to come out and work with Femi Oladejo. I'm excited to see what that might look like. We can talk about it coming up next. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, Cory Curtis, next man up, 1025 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Cory Curtis, Parker Kelly with you for a few more segments on your Wednesday morning. Chase and Big Joe are coming up at the top of the hour. And don't forget, Vanderbilt baseball taking on Florida in the SEC tournament. First pitch is scheduled for 1 p.m. Pre-game, hopefully around 12:45, right here on 102.5 The Game. We'll have to see how the opening game of the day, Missouri and Mississippi State, wraps up. But all coverage of Vanderbilt baseball is presented by Gary Force Acura. Cory, we're talking Titans OTAs, and Terry McCormick put out a report this past weekend that Javon Curse, the freak, was going to come out specifically with the goal of helping Femi Oladejo develop as a pass rusher. Wanted to get your thoughts on that. I think that is kind of a match made in heaven for Femi, who is, he's not the freak, but he is a very big athletic man who needs the polish of a pass rusher. I think Javon Curse could be the perfect guy to kind of unlock that for him.
Well, I mean, I think, Javon may be able to identify with him a little bit, and, obviously their ability completely different levels when they came into the league, but Javon was not a polished pass rusher when he came to the Titans. I mean, he was called the freak for a reason. He was super long and super fast, and he used that to get like 12 sacks his rookie year. But, the longer you're in the league, the longer you have to refine some of those skills and some of those moves. So, he can identify with kind of a starting point for Femi, who has not played this position for very long. And can maybe help him transition some. I mean, it doesn't hurt to have people in your corner, building up your confidence, especially, guys, when they're talking to people who have some proof of performance, might have their ear a little bit more. We'll see if it helps. It can't hurt.
Right, yeah. With Femi, we talked about this on Monday, that this is a big year for Femi Oladejo. You used a second-round pick on him. He was hurt, didn't produce as a rookie. Yep. You've got to start to see that proof of concept with him this year. It can't just – the excuses start to go away after year two. And so I like that the coaching staff is saying, you know what? Yeah, we're going to have Aaron Whitecotton work with him. We're going to have our coaching staff work with him. But we can bring in somebody in the community who is a Titans legend who can specialize in exactly what Femi needs to learn. And hopefully that does lead to production in year two.
Well, look, he doesn't have to be a 12 sack guy.
No.
But he needs to be a presence in the pass rush. Even hurrying the quarterback can force them into mistakes. And the only time we ever saw him get pressure on the quarterback really last year was when they didn't block him. And I don't sit there and I'm not saying that to make fun of him. That's facts. He was unblocked and he came in and there he was. And so, he's going to have to be more of a force. He got his feet wet last year. He's tasted a little bit. And now he's going to get to be with an established, defensive coach in Robert Saleh. And, we'll see what he can do.
And he gets to work with that deep rotation of defensive linemen that Robert Saleh and Mike Borgonzi have built. So maybe can be put in some situations that will help him produce in year two. Cory, we didn't get your thoughts on the schedule. We talked a lot about it last week, but anything that stands out to you? I know we had talked that the Jets might be the opener in week one. Was there anything else that you looked at and caught your eye when the schedule was released last Thursday?
Well, I thought the Steelers were an interesting choice for the final game at the old Nissan Stadium. We thought it might be one of the AFC South rivals.
Yeah.
And it's not. And, I'm really interested to see what the Steelers are when that game gets here. I mean, I don't know if Aaron Rodgers will still be starting in week 17.
Right.
So, I mean, there's a lot of ways the schedule can shake out. It doesn't look like it's the number one schedule in the league like it was last year. So that's, you're breathing a sigh of relief. But, the other thing is you're starting at home and you haven't done that since they got waxed by the Cardinals, I think, in that 5-sack game for Taylor Lewan.
Right.
And so, I think they're a slight favorite over the Jets. Was it 1.5?
I think it was, it might've gotten up to like 2.5 or 3.
Yeah. I thought it would get bet up. But yeah, I mean, you got a legit chance to start 1-0. And frankly, if you don't start 1-0, if you start 0-1, That's a misstep to start the year. You need to win that football game.
Yeah, week one, it's week one, and we have the conversation every year of week one is a liar, and like there's no such thing as must win.
Lie to me then.
But
lie to me and win.
I think with the way these past 2 seasons have gone, you got to get off on the right foot just to get some good energy in that building. You win 6 games in 2 years. I think it can be very easy to get into a here we go again mentality if you lose week one, especially to a team like the Jets that isn't expected to be very good. So I do think week one, very important. I won't say it's a must win, but I do think it is a very, very important game for Robert Saleh in his first season.
Well, look, I mean, if you're Cam Ward, you need to beat Geno Smith.
Yeah.
I mean, and I know the Jets have other players, but that's what we're looking at here. What is Cam Ward in year 2? Because he's the first overall pick of the NFL draft. He needs to take a step forward. I thought he did take a step forward last year when they made the change in coaching staffs. And I think the stats dramatically bear that out with the increase in touchdown production and the decrease in sack production. And so, he needs to grow off of where he finished last season and where this offense finished last season. And if they do, I'm pretty confident, they'll win this football game. And, who knows what anybody's really going to be this year. But I just think when you look at where the Jets are, got to take care of business in that one.
Agreed. And Robert Saleh will have a chip on his shoulder facing his former team in week one. I do think overall it's a well-balanced schedule. There are gettable games throughout the year. There isn't really a stretch that I look at and say, oh, that's a murderer's row. You only have 2 times that you play back-to-back road games. So I think overall the schedule makers gave the Titans a favorable schedule on paper. Now, does that mean they're going to win the division? Probably not, but I do think it sets up well for the Titans to take a step forward this year.
They're never playing on short rest.
Yep.
Their travel miles are very manageable this year. I think it was like 18,000.
Yeah, it was very middle of the pack.
Yeah, I would say I think it's bottom half of the league. So they're never going to go into a game thinking the other team has a rest advantage or a mileage advantage.
Yep.
So the NFL has minimized some of those things for them. Now they just got to go out and do it. And, Cam Ward's got a lot to prove. Robert Saleh's got a lot to prove. I don't recall a winning season on his resume as a head coach.
Nope.
And so, I mean, we all believe that he is a better head coach than what they have. But, there's some, validation and some proof that has to come, with this season. The Titans – over under on wins is 6.5. I think, if they get to 6, what that 6 looks like is important.
Yeah.
Because it can look differently. I mean, 6-11 is ugly, but you could also have, hey, we were a really competitive 6-11,
right,
a couple plays away from being 9-8. Because I think 3 years is long enough to be absolutely putrid, and they've, but Mike Borgonzi's had 2 classes to bring in here. He's brought in his own coaching staff. They need to be better. I mean, they need to be better. And the schedule's there to be better against. I don't think any of us know what the AFC South is. We know the Texans defense. Yeah. The Texans defense is really good. We know the Colts have some players, but we don't know if Daniel Jones, what he's going to be this year after last year. I mean, there's lots of questions, and we'll see how they get answered.
Yeah, I think that's a good point that you make, too, of there's a lot of ways you can measure success for the Titans this year, and I struggle to put just a flat win number on it because there could be a 7-10 that looks worse than a 6-11. And I know, like, winning games is the most important thing, but I do think you can't just say, all right, if they go 6-11, it's a failure, but 7-10 is a success. Like, you got to actually watch the games and see what the team looks like.
Yeah, I mean, look, if they go 7-10 or 6-11, and Cam Ward throws for 3,600 yards, 28 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions, you're going to say, okay, we've got some other things to work on, but we're looking pretty good at quarterback, and you're going to feel a lot better about it. So, there's a lot of things that can come into play there.
Yeah, that was my thought too, is like, I don't care about the win number. The win number needs to be better, but I would like to, on January 10th, when the season ends, be able to say this team can compete for a playoff spot next year. Like, come out of the season feeling like this is a team ready to take that next step. And however many wins that comes with, I have no idea, but we'll just have to see.
I want to see a team that can score over 20 points a game.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
That's what I want to see. I mean, there was a time last year where they were averaging 13 points a game.
It was bad.
I think you, Parker, and I could almost do that. So again, the win number is important, but I always say, if you're 12-4, 4-12, more important to me is how are you playing?
Yep.
Because there are things that can get in the way and winning and losing, and ultimately, you might be, like the Lions last year, they took a step back, but I don't think anybody's sitting here going, well, that team is garbage.
Yeah.
So, the Chiefs, they took a big step back, but I don't think anybody expects them to take it 2 years in a row. So we'll wait and we'll see. But, they need to take a step forward.
Yes.
It starts with Cam Ward, quite obviously. But they need to not be, and forgive me for being blunt, they need to not be a joke on Sundays.
Yeah.
Because for half the season last year, when the Raiders are laughing at you, calling you one of the worst teams they've ever seen, that's bad.
Yes.
That's bad.
That is.
They need to be a team that you turn on Sunday and go, that's an NFL football team.
Right. And I think you started to see that more towards the end of the year, but
yes,
you need to see that from day one in 2026. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. We'll take your thoughts. We got a couple more segments on the show. We'll bounce around a little bit. We got Stanley Cup playoffs, Eastern Conference Finals starting tomorrow, Western Conference Finals tonight, and also Vanderbilt and Tennessee both looking to continue their run in Hoover today. Vanderbilt taking on Florida later on this afternoon, right here on 102.5 The Game. First pitch is tentatively scheduled for 1 p.m. Jake Lyman, Cory Curtis, Parker Kelly, next man up here on 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Cory Curtis, Parker Kelly with you. Big night of sports tonight. Game 2, Spurs and Thunder in the Western Conference Finals. Cory, did you watch that thriller on Sunday?
I did not see much of it. I had it on. I've heard everyone raving about it. It's been the most talked about NBA game I can remember in a while.
I agree with that. I think this is that was a big moment for the NBA, and it was honestly kind of perfect. I said this yesterday. I was locked in on Game 7 of Sabres Canadians. I mean, you get Game 7 in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Sorry, I'm gonna watch that over Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals in the NBA. But the Canadians scored the game winner so early that I got to watch the end. And Victor Wembanyama is he's one of those players that he's talked about as generational when coming into the draft, and I think he's going to live up to that. I think the NBA has its face for the next decade plus.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if he's got the personality to drive it. I mean, it's interesting because he and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, are both pretty quiet guys.
Yeah,
you don't see a lot of commercials. You don't see a lot of interviews with either of those guys, but they're both pretty spectacular to watch. And maybe that's a good thing. Maybe they're more worried about their performance than they are their brand. That would be refreshing, personally. And I think, the way Wembanyama has developed since he got to the league, has been impressive. Being great is obviously important to him. He's carrying a lot of human body, and you always worry about their capacity to hold, for their joints to hold up to that long term, whether it be Ralph Sampson or Yao Ming or some of those guys. Shaq had a different build.
Yeah,
he had a bigger, more athletic frame. So we'll hopefully Wembanyama holds up. I mean, we haven't seen much in injury department from him. He's clearly bigger and stronger than he was when he entered the league. And it has not impacted his game negatively at all.
I mean, the performance he had on Monday night was the pull-up 3 from 35 feet to tie it in overtime. Yeah. I'm like, you should not be that big.
7'4"?
Yeah, like you should not be able to do that when you're that big. Like just pull up in transition and hit a shot from the logo. So I have not been huge into the NBA over the past couple of seasons. During my lifetime, I feel like my interest in the NBA has gone in waves. I was pretty big into it as a kid. Then throughout high school, didn't care as much, got more into it in college. And then the last few years has been a lull. But that game last night actually has me really excited for this series. It feels like this could be an all-time classic between San Antonio and OKC.
Yeah, no, I mean, really, maybe it's the beginning of what it will be the rivalry for the next 5 years.
Yeah.
You don't know what their capacities are to hang on to their rosters. But it'd be fun to watch, to see, to have that, because for the longest time when I was growing up, when it was Lakers Sixers or Lakers Celtics, or those were just can't miss games. Dr. J versus or Magic Johnson, or Larry Bird versus Magic Johnson, and we need more of that. We need more of that just toe to toe. These are the two teams. Go get it.
Yeah, and I mean, we got that back in the late 2010s with LeBron and Steph, Cavs, Warriors, pretty much every year in the finals. But I think you're right. I think this is going to be a playoff matchup for years to come between San Antonio and Oklahoma City. Would you agree with me, Cory, that winner of that series is the NBA champion? Like Cavs, Knicks, they may be able to win a game or two in that final series, but I think it's the winner of the West is going to take home the trophy.
I would bet on the West, but the Knicks seem to be getting hot.
They're scrappy. Right, they're scrappy coming back from 22 last night.
Well, I mean, that's a collapse. That's a collapse by Cleveland. That's not handling your lead.
Yeah.
But also when Jalen Brunson gets hot, I mean, it's kind of like, Tyler Halliburton last year for the Pacers. That guy gets tuned up. You can't slow him down. And so we'll see if they can make something of that, because I still think ultimately OKC is the team. But we'll see. It's fun that it's a conversation. That's for sure.
Yeah. Big one tonight. Game 2 in Oklahoma City. Feels like that might be a must win for the Thunder before they head out to San Antonio. In the Stanley Cup playoffs, I feel like it's the opposite situation of like Colorado and Carolina. I feel pretty good about them winning their conference final series, but that could lead up to a great Stanley Cup final.
Yeah, I mean, they certainly look like the best two teams. The only concern for Carolina is they had to wait like a month in between playoff series.
Yeah.
And so how sharp are they when they get back? But those look like the best two teams, and if it's not one of those two teams, I'll be shocked. And you'll feel, if you watch those two teams, you'll feel really good about knowing who is the best team in the NHL.
Yeah.
With the two best teams going at it.
Yep. And the Western Conference Finals begin tonight. Vegas and Colorado out in Denver. And then tomorrow night in Raleigh, the Hurricanes hosting the Canadiens. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. We've got one more segment on the show. We will wrap up after this. Jake Lyman, Cory Curtis, Parker Kelly, next man up. 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Cory Curtis, and Parker Kelly couldn't go through the whole show without getting some Prince or Michael Jackson in there.
It's fine. I'm not angry about it. I think people have taken my
agree.
my words too far.
I think people have overreacted to what you said. You did not say you hate Michael Jackson and Prince. You just said that they aren't like your favorite artists.
I mean, TD went as far to say he was revoking your human card. So
that's fine. He's a Mets fan, so
and see, like
I can revoke his card.
I like Michael Jackson. I like Prince, but I do think that your words were twisted a little bit. Like it went from he's not a bit.
I didn't say they are not talented,
right? And that if you watch the clip that was posted on Instagram, I did preface that with what you exactly said.
Jake went to bat for you.
I did. I tried to.
I didn't, but Jake did.
It's fine. Look, if people want to hate me, they can get in line. All right. there is a long line, and they can get in it, and they can tell me how much I suck. And you know what I'll say? Thanks for watching.
You know I don't hate you. I just love messing with you. So
yeah, Parker does. Parker
I
likes poking the bear with Cory.
Yeah, I'm not poked right now. See, that's the thing is like you could play Prince. That's fine. I don't care. I'm not offended by it.
I think
I realize millions of people love him.
4312 says it's terrible. Embrace it, Cory. You are right. Don't back down. So you do have some supporters on the text line.
But see, he's not my supporter because I didn't say it's terrible. Well, I just said it's not for me. It's not. It doesn't light me up. That's all.
We are getting ready for Vanderbilt baseball coming up on the station in about an hour. We'll see. Based on Missouri, Mississippi State, it does look like Mississippi State up 10 heading into the 7th. So we will see. Maybe mercy rule there. Could see an earlier finish, which would allow Vandy to start on time. Currently is scheduled for a 1 p.m. first pitch and a 12:45 pregame right here on 102.5 The Game. Cory, it's a long shot for Vanderbilt to get into the NCAA tournament, and it would snap a 19-year streak of postseason appearances for Tim Corbin and the Vandy boys. But as we've seen over the last, basically since Tim Corbin is there, his teams love playing in Hoover, and they were able to rally for a win yesterday. Now they've got a tougher test in Florida.
Yeah, look, they won 2 of the last 3 tournaments. Yep. And I know there's a lot of people who feel like, and reasonably so, that they've got to win this one to get into the tournament. But and look, they're a long shot to win the next 2. But I feel like if they can win this one, and who would they if they beat Florida, Georgia?
Alabama.
The 4 seed?
Yep.
Alabama.
Yep.
So, no, Alabama's playing Tennessee next.
No, Tennessee would play. Okay. Tennessee plays Arkansas, and then they would play Texas.
Oh, okay. I don't know how I got that wrong. But regardless, I feel like if Vanderbilt can win the next 2, they're in the conversation. That very well may not get them in, but I don't think they were really in the conversation until they won yesterday. Well, they're still not in the conversation. They put themselves in position to become a part of the conversation if they can win a couple more of these games, if they can add some really quality quad 1 wins.
Yes, winning the game yesterday was huge because it gives you the opportunity to keep playing. And Florida is a top 15 RPI team, and I think everybody you would play from here on out would be. You win today, you win tomorrow. That gives you 17 SEC wins this year. Now, your RPI still probably wouldn't be great, but I do think it would at least give Vanderbilt a chance on Monday to get it.
Yes. I mean, like I said, they could at least watch the show and think, hey, maybe it'll go our way.
Yeah.
Whereas if they had lost yesterday, or even if they lose today, they know there's very slim hopes that they're going to get in.
Yeah.
I mean, you talked about the beginning of the season. They lost too many games early on.
Yep. And I think Vanderbilt, if the only way they're going to feel good is if they win the whole thing. Like that, Even if you lose in the championship game, I don't know if that makes you a lock to get in. I think you'd go into Selection Monday feeling decent, but the only way they can feel good is if they actually win the whole thing. So
I agree with that.
We will see. 1:00 today, Vanderbilt and Florida. And you can listen to all the action right here on 102.5 The Game as the Commodores look to extend their season. Cory, always great having you on. Excited to have you back next week. And it's been great. Been a great show today.
I'll make my way into the studio next week.
Please.
I promise.
I haven't seen you in 2 weeks. Like, what's going on?
I do think we need to celebrate a very important birthday today. Turning 49 years old, turning 49 today is Smokey and the Bandit.
Wow. Okay. There we go.
Happy birthday,
Smokey and the Bandit. There we go.
Jackie Gleason's greatest performance.
Cory, we are excited to see you back in studio next week, and thanks for coming on.
All right. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Have a great day.
That does it for us. Chase and Big Joe are coming up next. You're listening to 102.5 The Game.